Hey, welcome to our third video on Judaism in our continuing series on world religions. And today I want to take up the topic of Moses, freedom, and the law. So last time we dealt with Abraham, this essential figure of the book of Genesis. The second half of the book of Genesis is really about him and the things that he goes through. And we all thought a lot last time about the idea of the covenant, this mutually beneficial, mutually binding relationship between God and Abraham, and by extension, God and the Hebrew people and all of us. And the idea of participatory justice, where Abraham models for us what it's like to collaborate with God in the service of that which is just and moral and right. In other words, speaking truth to power. That power is not the ultimate authority, justice is. And that if authority figures get it wrong, it is our moral obligation to let them know about that. And that is a vital, vibrant part, I think, of the Jewish worldview. And Abraham modeled that for us when he took God on the question of what to do with Sodom. But we also saw last time Abraham's paradoxical modeling of absolute submission and surrender to God's authority when God asked Abraham to kill his son Isaac. So Abraham is an essential mirror held up to all of us. And so is Moses. Moses is, of course, the topic of the second book of the Torah, and that is the book of Exodus. And I think we're all, just by osmosis, familiar with the story of Moses. Maybe we've seen the great Charlton Heston movie, The Ten Commandments, or in other ways through our Christian tradition or wherever, learned the story of Moses. It's really the archetypal hero's tale, born in obscurity to an Israelite slave mother. And the prophecy goes out from the Pharaoh that your overthrower has been born. So Pharaoh sends his soldiers into the Jewish slum, into the Israelite ghetto, to kill all the newborn babies. And so out of desperation, one can imagine the trauma of this. Moses' mother places her newborn son Moses in the basket and sends him down the river, knowing that whatever lies downstream is better than certain death. And so our young hero Moses is discovered by the Pharaoh's sister. He washes up on the beach right in front of the palace, and the Pharaoh's sister, who wants a child anyway, brings baby Moses into the Pharaoh's palace. It's ironic. The one infant Pharaoh was trying to kill is now safely housed in his own palace and is raised there. But Moses grows up, of course, not knowing who he is and what his past is and what his destiny is. And that again models for us in the hero's journey that all of us are the heroes of our own lives, Joseph Campbell says. And in that sense, none of us really knows our true origin. Sure, we know our family story, some of us, and we know our name. But do we really know what we are? And do any of us know where we're going or what our full potential is? No. And that's what life is for, is the breaking open of our safety systems and revealing to us our strength and our character. And if you don't go create that yourself, life finds you and does it for you. And in Moses' case, he's a young man, he's grown up, he witnesses an Israelite soldier, an Egyptian soldier beating an Israelite laborer to death. And he, in his moral outrage, he is awakened. In his sense of justice, he's awakened, and he comes to the defense of the Israelite soldier, of the Israelite laborer, who's being beaten, and ends up killing the cop. And now he's a cop killer. He has to flee. He leaves Egypt. He disappears for decades way up near the top of the Red Sea. And there he lives a life as a shepherd, takes on a whole new identity in a sense. And it is there, of course, that God comes to find him in this essential theophany or God vision scene where Moses is tending his flock and he hears a voice and it's God calling him. And he goes around the corner and he sees a bush that is being burned but not consumed by the fire, the famous burning bush scene. And God tells Moses, I need you to go back to Egypt and let my people go. And like any good hero, Moses resists. He's reluctant. He's like, I think you got the wrong guy. I mean, it's the impossible task, right? It's in all heroes' journeys. Frodo, I need you to take this ring that's trying to kill you all the time, all the way across Middle-earth to Mordor and destroy it. Dorothy, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Lion, I need you to go get the Wicked Witch's broom. You know, this is the impossible task. It can't be done by all measures. And yet, our hero must, of course, try to do it. So Moses does go back to Egypt. He challenges Pharaoh's authority. And they have this epic battle. My God can beat your gods, and it's on, and all the plagues. And I'm leaving a lot of detail out. You can read this amazing story for yourself in Exodus, or watch the great Charlton Heston film, The Ten Commandments, or both. And eventually, of course, this final devastating plague, God is going to send the spirit of death through all of the houses to kill the firstborn child. It's a murderous act, but it's a desperate time. And yet God tells Moses, tell the Israelites to smear lamb's blood over their lintel, over their door, and the spirit of death will pass over those houses. And so the firstborn of the Hebrews are spared, but the Pharaoh's son is killed, and it breaks his will. And he says to Moses, go, take your people and go. And Moses, as the archetypal shepherd, leads his flock fleeing from Egyptian bondage. And that Passover idea, that Pesach in Hebrew idea, becomes, of course, the seed of the Passover ritual all these millennia later, where Jews celebrate this sacred holiday, not just as a commemoration of Moses and the liberation of literal bondage from Egypt, but of all of our journeys from bondage to freedom, in all of the iterations that takes, like our journeys from addiction to sobriety, from ignorance to wisdom. All of us are on the journey from bondage to freedom. And the theme of freedom runs thick through Judaism, through all of its historical and ethical dimensions. And of course, we know that Moses leads the Israelites on a long journey back to the promised land, the land that God promised to Abraham in the book of Genesis 600 years before. And on the way, we know the most famous part of the story of Moses, the Ten Commandments. At Mount Sinai, God gives to Moses these stone tablets on top of the mountain that contain those 10 vital laws. It's part of the core of Judaism. Remember, the Jewish God is a law-giving God. The Torah has pages and pages and pages of over 600 laws, the most famous of which are these 10. And what starts to come into sharper focus here is this. The ethical dimension of Judaism, the law dimension. And it's really a philosophy of law question. It's almost a political science question. What is law for? Are laws a restriction of human freedom? Or is law a way of enhancing human freedom by creating safety, clarity, and boundary within which we can live our best lives? Does the law make us more free? It's a potent question, and it's at the heart, I think, of the Jewish experience. And so when we get back together in our next video, I want to focus with you on the law that Moses got from God, those 10 laws that we know as the 10 Commandments, and we'll pose that question more specifically. What are the 10 Commandments for? Are they a restriction of human freedom, or are they a formula through which we can achieve a deeper, richer, and more authentic freedom and joy? So we'll see you next time for our study of the 10 Commandments.